Hello students, welcome to the next lecture in the topic multiple regression. Today we are going to talk about control variables. First let us define a control variable and then we will talk about why we may want to include control variables in the multiple regression. So a control variable W is a variable that is correlated with and controls for an omitted causal factor in the regression of y on x, but which itself does not necessarily have a causal effect on y. So previously we have looked at a population regression function y equals to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus u, where we have included x2 to avoid omitted variable bias in the estimated beta 1 parameters, to avoid omitted variable bias. Now in this case x2 had to fulfill two conditions. What were those two conditions? So basically the two conditions were that the correlation of x1 and x2 was not equal to 0, and the second condition was that x2 had a causal effect on y. Okay, so x2 had a causal effect on y. Now we are saying that maybe the x2 does not have a causal effect on y and it only is correlated with x1, but even in that case we may want to include x2 in the model. And why we want to include x2 in the model is because of the whole idea of trying to mimic an ideal randomized controlled experiment. So if you remember, in order to establish causality, we were trying to build a regression model which mimics the ideal randomized controlled experiment. Okay, so what were the recapitulate what were the conditions of an ideal randomized controlled experiment? So ideal, that is, under ideal conditions it has been the experiment has been conducted under ideal conditions, there are no measurement errors and so on and so forth. Ideal randomized, so the entities that have been assigned to the test and the control groups, they have been assigned completely randomly. Ideal randomized controlled experiment, so all other factors that could possibly affect the variable of interest, all other factors have been controlled for. So all other factors remain constant, controlled for. This is the meaning of controlled experiment. And then finally experiment, that is, you are assigning the entities to the test and the control group. So you get to decide who is in the test and the control group. Okay, so as we know, with observational data, this experiment part of it becomes a little tricky because we cannot really assign our subjects to the test and the control group, but we can try to mimic the ideal randomized controlled part of it. Okay, even if we cannot mimic the experiment part of it. So the mimicking the controlled group, control part of it, that is where the control variables come for. That is, we are trying to account for all other variables which might possibly cause changes in the dependent variable, in the y variable, but they may not necessarily be causal variables. They are all the other variables that are outside our control, but we have to take them into account while specifying our model. So let us explain this using the same example that we have been looking at. So control variables, an example for the California test score data. We have test score and we have the original variable of interest, which is str. We have included percentage English learners to take care of omitted variable bias in the beta 1 hat. So we have included this variable to take care of omitted variable bias in the beta 1 hat. Okay, now we include another variable which is basically lunch percent or percentage of students receiving a free subsidized lunch. So the only students from low income families are eligible for receiving the free subsidized lunch. So in some sense the lunch percentage becomes a proxy variable for how many students come from low income families. So it becomes a proxy variable for the economic background of the students that are attending that particular school. Okay, so percentage English learners was basically an proxy variable for the number of people from immigrant communities, and lunch percentage is people who are coming from economically poorer backgrounds. So in this case, which variable is the variable of interest? As before, our variable of interest or the policy variable is STR. Which variables are the control variables? So both percentage English learners and lunch percentage might be control variables. So let us look at that. So this is our original model. We have already fit this model, and we have got these values for beta 0 hat, beta 1 hat, beta 2 hat, and beta 3 hat, and the values within the brackets are the standard errors associated with each of those parameters. STR is the variable of interest. Percentage English learners probably has a direct causal effect on test scores. Why does it have a direct causal effect on test score? Because students who are weaker in English may find it difficult and to actually achieve higher test scores, because they cannot actually understand, they may not be able to understand or communicate in that language, because it is the language of instruction. So it may have a direct causal effect on test scores. Now percentage English learners is also a control variable. So we are only interested in the effect of the number of students per teacher. So we keep this when we include this in the model. So the beta 1 coefficient, the beta 1 can be interpreted as the effect of STR while keeping all the other while holding constant all of the other independent variables. Okay, so this is the conditional effect of STR given that all the other variables have been taken care of. So they may also be less, so percentage English learners is also a control variable. Children from immigrant communities may be less proficient in English. They may also be less affluent, but this may not always be true. So depending upon which kind of communities they are coming from, they may come from certain immigrant communities which are more affluent. Then this may affect the kind of outside learning opportunities that the kids have, which may affect their test scores. Now lunch percentage may have a causal effect. Okay, the number of students who are getting subsidized lunch, it may have a causal effect, but lunch in itself may have a lower causal effect. However, it identifies and controls for the economic background of the family that the child comes from. So it is not necessarily that it has a causal effect, but it does control for the economic background. So we want to keep all the other factors the same, and we are controlling for the economic background. So control variables are what makes an effective control variable. An effective control variable is one which, when included in the regression, makes the error term uncorrelated with the variable of interest. What this basically means is, when you include that control variable, the expected value of ui given xi becomes 0. So if you remember, this is the first assumption of underlying multiple regression. So the whole idea of including the control variable is such that your error becomes uncorrelated with your variable of interest. This is your variable of interest, which in this particular case is STR. Holding constant the control variables, the variable interest is as if randomly assigned. So when we include, even though they are not actually, like, not they may not be completely randomly assigned, but if you include those variables, it is as if they are randomly assigned among individuals with the same value of the control variable. So for poorer students, taking into account that they come from poorer families, what effect does STR have? And amongst richer students, taking into account that they come from richer families, what effect does STR have? So this is the beta 1 hat is the effect of STR on the effect of STR, the correlation of STR with the test score, given that all the other variables are kept constant. So it mimics the ideal randomized controlled experiment kind of setup, and here we can more confidently say that in fact this STR has a causal effect on Y or not. Okay. So control variables need not be causal, and their coefficients do not generally have a causal interpretation. Now look at this model that we have built by including lunch percentage. As you can see, the beta coefficient for the lunch percentage is minus 0.547 with a standard error of 0.024. So this is statistically significant. Now if lunch percentage had a causal interpretation, then we can improve test scores by simply eliminating the school lunch program. I am sorry, this is written as much program, this should be written as lunch program. Okay, that is, don't provide free lunches to, if you stop providing free lunches, then you can expect that since providing free lunches is resulting in poorer test scores. Notice that this coefficient is negative. So it is as if the providing free lunches is reducing your test scores, but that is not what it is. Okay, it is not that providing free lunches per se is reducing your test scores. It is that if you remove that free lunch program, it will not improve your test scores, and in fact may worsen the situation. Lunch percentage is just a proxy for the economic background. Just by looking at how many people are availing of the free lunches, you can understand what is the economic background. If you had direct data on the economic background, you could have included that variable also, but you don't have direct data, so you use this lunch percentage, which is a proxy variable. Okay, you are really interested in the economic background. So when you are trying to decide which are the variables that you want to include and what are the control variables that you want to include in your model, you have to have a good idea of the underlying theoretical underpinnings of the model. So if you are building an economic model, you have to understand the underlying economic theory. If you are building a marketing model, then you have to understand the underlying marketing theory, and so on and so forth. If you are building a model on the financial area, financial stock markets, then you have to understand the theory underlying what makes stock prices go up or down, and you have to include those variables that take into account all the theoretical underpinnings, and you will have to have domain knowledge in order to establish causality. So just using any variables and putting it in your model will not help you establish causality. So implications for variable selection and model specification. First, you have to identify the variable of interest. Which is your variable of interest? In this particular cases, many times the variable of interest is a variable that people are wondering whether to change the policy on it or something. In economics, it is a policy variable. In management, it may be a decision variable that you take into account. That is how much money to spend on advertisements or how much money to invest in a particular technology, or so on and so forth, how much money to invest in R&D. So these are decision variables that are taken by management, or policy variables that are taken by governments. So these are often our variables of interest. We want to see what effect it will have if we manipulate that decision variable. Think of the omitted causal effects that could result in omitted variable bias. Include those omitted causal effects if you can, or if you can't, include variables correlated with them that serve as control variables. The control variables are effective if the conditional mean independence assumption. Okay, so we have not actually talked about this conditional mean independence, but basically what it means is the expected value of ui given all the xi's included in the model is equal to 0. So this is conditional. ui given xi, so this is the conditional mean. Expected value of ui is the mean, and it is conditional on the included variables. So this assumption should be met, and hence you include all the control variables that might affect your UIs, okay, the error, the expected value of the UIs. So this results in a base or benchmark model. Also specify a range of plausible alternative models which include additional candidate variables. So basically look at all the variables that you may be interested in. So you have one dependent variable that is y. So you have one dependent variable that is y. You may have different kinds of independent variables that is x1, x2, x3. So x1 may be your variable of interest, but x2 may be something that you include to avoid omitted variable bias, x3 may be a control variable, and different other variables may be there. Many other variables might be there. You include all the variables which may affect which may have some kind of relationship with your y variable, okay. You include all these variables to take care of omitted variable bias and also to mimic a ideal randomized controlled experiment. You estimate your base model and plausible alternative specifications, sensitivity tests. Does a candidate variable change the coefficient of interest beta 1? Is a candidate variable statistically significant? Use judgment, not a mechanical recipe. Use your understanding of the underlying theory and to see whether a particular variable should be kept in your model and or not kept in your model. And most importantly, don't just try to maximize R square. As we have said before, in econometrics, we are often trying to look at the causal relationships. So our aim is to understand the beta 1 hats, and hence our main aim is not to maximize R square. So to talk about R square, we will talk a little bit about the measures of fit. So it is easy to fall into the trap of maximizing the R square and the adjusted R square, but this loses sight of our real objective, an unbiased estimator of the class size effect or an unbiased estimator of beta 1 hat. This is what we are really interested in. We are really interested in an unbiased estimator of the beta 1 hat, or the size or the effect of an independent variable on the dependent variable. So a high R square or adjusted R square means that the regressors explain the variation in y. A high R square or adjusted R square does not mean that you have eliminated omitted variable bias. It does not mean that the beta 1 hats you have got are unbiased. A high R square or adjusted R square does not mean that you have an unbiased estimator. Does not mean that the included variables are statistically significant. You have to test each of the included variables and you have to look at the t-tests and the p-values associated with each of the independent variables to see if they are statistically significant. All of those you have to do independently. So let us look at the test score data set. The identified variable of interest is STR. Think of the omitted causal effects that could result in omitted variable bias. Whether the student knows English, outside learning opportunities, parental involvement, teacher quality, if teacher salary is correlated with district wealth, there is a long list. Think of all the variables that might affect the student's achievement in test scores. Include these omitted causal effects if you can, or if you can't, include variables correlated with them that serve as control variables. So the control variables are effective if the conditional mean independence assumption plausibly holds, if U is uncorrelated with STR once the control variables are included. This results in a base or benchmark model. Many of the omitted causal variables are hard to measure, so we need to find control variables. These include percentage. So one of the causal variable is the economic background of the students. It is hard to measure the economic background of the students, and hence we use the control variable percentage English learners as a proxy variable for the economic background of the students. Also specify a range of plausible alternative models which include additional candidate variables. It isn't clear which of the income related variables will best control for the many omitted causal factors such as outside learning opportunities and so on and so forth. So the alternative specifications include regressions with different income variables. So percentage English learners is one, then lunch percentage is one. You may have other variables that also sort of act as proxy for the income variables. So alternative specifications considered here are just a starting point, not the final word. Estimate your base model and plausible alternative specifications. Okay, so you sort of build many models. So if you look at test scores and California socio-economic data, if you look at percentage English learners and test scores, you find that as the percentage English learners becomes higher and higher, that is, these are the districts which have many students who are weak in English, the test scores become lower and lower. So test scores are negatively correlated with percentage English learners. This we have seen before. Then again, if you look at percentage qualifying for reduced price lunch, so the number of students who are qualifying for reduced price lunch are over here. Higher number of students are qualifying for reduced price lunch. So these are probably coming from low income households. And again, as we can see, as the income of the households becomes lower and lower, their test scores may dip. This may be because the students are having to earn some living in addition. They are not being able to completely concentrate on their school studying. They cannot devote all the time to their school courses and so on and so forth. Percentage qualifying for income assistance. So this is another proxy variable for for the level of income of the families. And again, so here in fact we cannot see even here we find that more people qualifying for income assistance, the scores become slightly smaller, but there is actually a lot of variance in the data. But here we can see a pretty reduced price lunch. We can see a sort of very significant negative correlation with the number of students who are qualifying for reduced price lunch. So that variable seems to be a good proxy variable for the economic background of the student. Now, how do you present your regression results? As I have said, that you will build several regression models. We have a number of regressions and we want to report them. So if you report them one at a time, it is difficult to compare one regression model with another. So you could have equation 1 for the first regression, equation 2 for the second regression, and so on and so forth. But it is difficult to compare all the metrics that you want to compare for the different regressions in such a case, if you write it in such a case. So one usual method of presenting it that is very convenient is a table of regression results. So this table of regression results will have the estimated regression coefficients. It will give the standard errors. It will give the measures of fit for each of the models. It will give the number of observations taken into account, the relevant F statistics if any, and any other pertinent information. Okay, so let us see what this kind of a table might look like. Okay. So this is a possible table in a tabular form. You can report your results. So in this table, this 1 stands for the first model that you have built, 2 stands for the second model that you have built, 3 stands for the third model, 4 stands for the fourth model, and 5 stands for the fifth regression model that you have built. And these are the independent variables that have been included in each of these models. Okay, so in the first model you have only included student teacher ratio, and as you remember, you got a beta 1 hat of 2.28. In the second model, you have included student teacher ratio and percentage English learners. So you have included 2 variables in the second model. In the third model, you have included 3 variables. You have included percentage eligible for subsidized lunch. In the fourth model, you have included a different proxy variable for income category, that is percentage on public income assistance, that is X4, but you have dropped this variable, percentage eligible for subsidized lunch. So in this model also you have 3 variables, but you have a different proxy variable for the economic background or the financial background of the student that you are considering. And in the fifth model, you have in fact included all 4 variables. Now if you look at first of all, you can look at the standard error of the regression and the adjusted R square. The model fit is given by the adjusted R square. As you can see that the model fit improves greatly when you include percentage English learners, and it improves even more when you include the third variable, which is the percentage eligible for subsidized lunch. Then so you can see that whether you include this percentage on public income assistance or not, when you include just this and do not include the percentage eligible for subsidized lunch, your adjusted R square actually goes down. So this is not a good variable. This X4 is not a good explanatory variable. Rather than that, X3 is a good explanatory variable. And if you look at the adjusted R square with the 4 variables, you will see the adjusted R square of this is exactly the same as the adjusted R square of the model with 3 variables. Now you will always prefer a model with fewer variables which gives you the same level of model fit. So in this particular case, given that your model fit for the third model is the best with the fewest number of fewer explanatory variables, so in this particular case the best model is the third model, which gives you the best possible fit with the fewest independent variables, and the n in this particular case, in each case is the same, and the standard error of regression is also the smallest. The standard error of the regression, which tells you what is the variance of the u around the regression plane, it is the smallest for this particular third model, which also indicates that the third model is the best model. So you will choose this model and report this as the best model. Okay. So this way, as you can see, you can compare all of these coefficients also. Beta 1 had coefficients, beta 2 had coefficients, beta 3 had coefficients, and beta 4 had coefficients, and you can also compare all the adjusted R square from the same table. So this is a very convenient way of representing your model results in one go. So to summarize, multiple regression allows you to estimate the effect on y of a change in x1 holding other included variables constant. So multiple regression allows you to see the conditional effect of x1 on y while the other included variables are held constant. Okay. If you can measure a variable, you can avoid omitted variable bias from that variable by including it. So anything that you can think of that might cause omitted variable bias if you had not included it, then you must include that variable. If you can't measure the omitted variable, you still might be able to control for its effect by including a control variable. There is no simple recipe for deciding which variables belong in a regression. You must exercise judgment. Okay, so you must think about your model and you must think which are the variables you could possibly include for which you have data. So one approach is to specify a base model relying on a priori reasoning and then explore the sensitivity of the key estimates in alternative specifications. So this is where we will stop our lectures on multiple regression. This concludes the sessions on multiple regression, and we will continue with a different topic in the next lecture.